Now, for a very, very long time, we have wanted to have these conversations on her standards. And the good news is that finally we have made it. And today on set, we have women in their 40 plus years. They are fabulous, they are successful, they are enterprising, and we are ready to learn from them. Now, welcome to Her Standards. As usual, my name is Queen Tambori, and I'm always excited to connect you to women you need to know and also have conversations that we need to have. Some of them may be difficult, but we still have to have them because they are necessary. Remember, we are available across all social platforms. I am available at Queen Tambori, but you can also hit us up at KTN Home on Facebook, Instagram, as well as Twitter. Please allow me to introduce these amazing women. I'm joined by Carol Mandy of Carol Mandy Media Limited. Also, I have with me Achieng Butler. She rocks this hairstyle. Achieng Butler is an entrepreneur, and of course, she's also an independent consultant. Then finally, we have the beautiful, cool, calm, and collected Rose Wakiria, who is also a consultant, trainer, and author. Are you excited about this show the way I am? I don't know. You remember, hit us up in the comment section. Are you a woman who is 40 and plus years above? What has been your experience? What questions do you have for this amazing team? Talk to us, drop your comment on the comment section, and we'll try as much as possible to get in touch with you. Ladies, are we ready to have the big girl conversations?
Yes, yes.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
Oh, wonderful to be here.
Oh, really?
And especially flanked by these two amazing women.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Wonderful to be here.
Wonderful to be here. So I'm just, because this is a special episode of Her Standards, I'm going to allow each one of you to tell us briefly about themselves, who they are. If you like, you can also tell us your age. I might just say my age towards the end of this show. You know, you never know. It will depend if I'm inspired by this amazing women. So let me start with you, Achieng. Who are you? What do you do in this Nairobi city? What do you tell your people at home that you do in this city?
So, first of all, I'm delighted to be here. Thank you for having me on the show. My name is Achieng Butler. I run a digital marketing strategy and coaching firm. We do a lot of training in the area of strategy, digital marketing, and across the board coaching and mentoring of women. My background is actually in strategic marketing. I've worked for many, many decades. So if you look at my LinkedIn, you will know, actually if you do the math, you will know how old I am. But I'm very passionate about social impact, all things social impact. And so with my agency and also with the work that I do as an independent consultant, we focus on social impact work, working with women, working with the youth, working on environment, nutrition, any area of those subjects are areas that we're very passionate about.
Wow, welcome to Her Standards. All right, Carol, please tell us briefly about yourself.
Quinta, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Carol Mandy. I'm a publisher, a media owner. I run Carol Mandy Media that publishes, among other magazines, True Love Magazine. And I also run Pivoting in Heels, an organization that was formed in 2020, as a result of the pandemic. And my passion in life is the empowerment of women. And I'm also very passionate about telling African stories in a credible way, stories that not just inform but also transform lives.
Awesome. Rose, karibu sana to Her Standards.
Thank you, Queen, for having me.
Awesome. Yeah, what are you all about?
Yes, so I am a financial consultant.
Yeah.
I help people to manage their finances. Basically, that is what I love doing with people. My background is financial services, insurance in particular, and retirement benefits. But today, I normally coach individuals and families to help them make the most out of their money. So I work with many people, amongst them women. Women tend to form the largest part of my clients. I help clients to make the most of their financial resources so that they can focus on other areas of finances. Sort of make finances a non-issue, and then they be able to live life fully. So build on social capital and spiritual capital.
Now, just in case you're wondering, this episode of Her Standard has been inspired by an event that was held by True Love on the 3rd of September called A Woman in Her Prime, if I got it right. Yeah, A Woman in Her Prime was a reflection on women who are aged 40 years plus. Why was it important? Carol Mandy is here and she'll be able to explain to us why it was important for True Love to organize this event for women in their prime, who are basically 40 years and above. So Carol, what inspired this event for women over 40?
Thank you for that question, Quinta. You know, one of the first things is that I worked in, with women in the demographic of 25 to 35. And they grew up reading True Love and loving it. But then they got into their 40s and they got into their 50s and they could no longer relate with who they saw on the cover or even some of the content that was in there. And they kept saying to me, why are you putting those people on the cover? You know, they were very opinionated because the older women get, the more they own their voices. That's one of the beautiful things about growing older. You now own your voice, and you're not afraid to speak your opinions. Naliwe liwalo. You say it and you leave it there and let the people deal, right? And so they had a lot of opinions, but they just felt invisible. When they looked at themselves in media, looked for women like them in media, they were invisible. In advertising, in marketing, they were not there. And everybody was focusing on the younger demographic. And I said to them, the reason you're no longer relating to True Love right now is because you're not the demographic. You're an older demographic. And they said, okay, so what can you do for us? And we held a lot of focus groups and we did a lot of interviewing with women in this demographic over 40. What were their needs? What were their pain points? And then we realized what they actually need, because this is a new phase of life. So if you think about the butterfly, the butterfly has the first stage, which is the pupae stage. And that is, when it's forming, right? Then it goes into the caterpillar stage. Then it, metamorphosizes now into the butterfly. And that's what I was looking at, and I was saying, but women go through all these phases of life in their metamorphosis. And when they come into their prime, and the prime, a lot of people think your prime is in your 20s, because that's what advertising pushes out, and my friend here, Achieng, has been in marketing and behind a lot of campaigns like that. And they push that youth is vital, and youth is vital, and it's a great time to be. But when you're actually completely blossomed, when you come into your prime, is actually in your 40s. So that's not the message we are told. We're told that you're now on your decline, right? But now you know what you don't know, and you know what you know. And what you don't know, you know where to get it, right? Now you've sort of settled into who you are. If you were so focused on pleasing people and all of that, now you've settled. Now you want to please yourself. Now you want to live from an authentic place. You're not on Instagram only, concerned about, did this post hit 1,000 likes or views? You're there wondering, do I have something to say? And what I have to say, how does that impact and change and transform somebody else's life? So all of those things are about a woman in her prime. How do we help her to own her power, to own her glory, or to walk in her glory? And that's where this program, A Woman in Her Prime, came from. And we had, several speakers, including Achieng and Rose, just sharing their insights onto how do you make sure that your second half of life is going to be even better than your first half. How do you make the rest of your life the best of your life?
Achieng, Carol has pointed out two important issues which I would like to ask you to build up on. One is the fact that a woman in her prime, that's when she blossoms fully after 40 years old. But at the same time, there seems to be some sort of a contradiction, because that is a time when now, unlike what you know internally, the kind of person you're becoming, externally, people tend to assume you. So it's like women in their 40s or above 40s, they are invisible. So what was it like for you, being 40 plus?
Thanks for that question. I love that question, because you're right.
Yeah.
Because of the dynamics of how people assume you're kind of now over, your season is ending.
Yes.
If you're not very aware of yourself and the fact that that is the assumption and that that's a societal construct
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with you as the individual, it's very easy to get sucked into that, and it's quite a negative place to be. For me, my experience was that I found my voice. This is where I understood that actually my choices are mine to live by, they're mine to make, and they're mine to live by. And so whether it was choices about career, choices about investment, choices about relationships, whether it was intimate love relationships or whether it's about, you know, family relationships or relationships with friends, I was very, very deliberate about how I made the choices on who's going to be in my life, on what I'm going to be doing with my life. So for me, it was such a liberating season. It was such a liberating season. I found my voice, and I stopped worrying about what people say, what people think. I'm a very colorful person, but I always worked in the corporate space, which would be very formal. But I realized, just be your creative self. Those who love it will love it. Those who don't will not, and that's okay, you know. Wow. So for me, it was freedom. It was liberating.
It was liberating.
Absolutely.
And do you think women are invisible? Do you think women in their 40s are invisible?
Not at all. You see, it's invisible from whose perspective? Okay. That's the question I would ask. Okay. I think being invisible starts with how you are feeling as the individual. If you're conscious of who you are, what you're good at, what you have to offer to the world, then you're self-aware enough to be present and feel present. And then the feeling of being invisible is not something that's inherently within you, because you're present, you know who you are, you know what your value is. I think being invisible, if other people don't see you, maybe they're not people that have any value to add within the context of who you are and what you have to offer. So it's really about how you feel individually first, and not so much how people determine you should feel or what your value is according to them. It's really a very individual, very internal process and feeling of being.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Rose, what happened when you turned 40 plus? Did you feel invisible? Did you feel more liberated?
I think for me, turning 40 was quite interesting, and especially contrasting it with the 30s. 30s was a chaotic stage, yeah? You have young children, your responsibilities at work are growing. It was just a season of stress because of so much that was happening. But also as you grow towards 40, your income is also growing. So there was a freedom that came with that. Financially, you're a bit comfortable. You're not worried about the next school fees. And the children are also older, so you have some time to yourself. But also you've grown, you have experience. For me, I think I felt more confident. And soon after I turned 40, that's when I actually had the confidence to leave corporate and go into self-employment.
Wow, what is it about being 40 plus, ladies? And then there's this thing that is called midlife crisis. Yeah, did any of you encounter it, or were you branded as someone who was experiencing midlife crisis?
I don't think I don't know that women go through a midlife crisis. Maybe they do. It's more associated with men. But I think there was just this whole sense of the introspection, which is, who am I when I'm not Mama so-and-so? Because so-and-so has grown up, and so-and-so is not wanting to spend time with you. You know, that's the time you have teenage children, and they're having their own lives, and they're creating their own identities separate from you. Who am I when I'm not Mama so-and-so? Who am I when I can see my career in a certain organization? I'm being told, by the way, retirement, you can be given early retirement, you can be removed. Who am I when I don't have the job title? Those are kind of the things that were going on internally. And yet I felt so strong. I felt so vital. I felt like I still have so much more to give. In fact, I have more to give now because I've got more time than I had in my 20s and my 30s. We used to call the 30s, as she said, the punda years. Those are the donkey years. Like, you're really just working and struggling, And now I got into this space. I was a new business. I'd just gotten the True Love franchise. When I turned 40, it was amazing. It was unbelievable. The world was opening up for me in a very new way, But I needed to go internally and to ask myself all those questions. Who am I when I'm not this and I'm not that? How do I define myself if my business is not there? When my children leave home, how do I define myself? What kind of relationships do I want going forward? Do I have everything I need? That's the other thing. I mean, you know, when Rose talks about the money, the finances, do I have the finances to live the kind of life I want to live, you know? Because life is not ending. It's only beginning, you know? So it wasn't a midlife crisis, it was liberation. It was like, oh, thank God. Yeah.
Just got rebranded.
Yes.
So, actually, did you experience any sort of midlife crisis, quote unquote? Because I'm told it's different things to different people. To some, they buy the car of their dreams. Others start traveling. Others live. Others separate from their relationships. Did you experience such a thing?
No, but I think for me the biggest thing was that you almost discover your superpower. There are things that society tells you, oh, you shouldn't do. So I worked in a very corporate environment, and so you kind of had to be, like, you couldn't just laugh and toss your head and laugh at the top with all your lungs as loudly as you can, because that's what came. You know, you carried yourself in a certain way, and you kind of controlled yourself. I feel like sometimes you even contained yourself, you know? And for me, it was almost finding that some of the things that could have been classified as you shouldn't do or you shouldn't be like that was suddenly the things that I realized were our biggest strengths. So for me, it was almost discovering my biggest strengths and discovering that some of those strengths were actually my superpower. So like, I'm a very passionate, expressive person. And I throw myself into stuff. And I realized this whole passion that I had that somehow helps people come on board with things, that's something it's a strength. And expressing myself in a very authentic way, being real, keeping it real, even if you're being vulnerable, that was a strength, because it enables people to relate with you and at a very personal level. And so people open up, and so people are willing to share, people are willing to do stuff. So I started to discover at that age, I wouldn't call it midlife crisis, probably a midlife gift, you know, the gift of knowledge, the gift of understanding, the gift of almost wisdom and understanding of who you are. And so for me, that was really a big click, a big turning point, was really just understanding what my strengths were, and that what society might have deemed as weaknesses were actually my strengths, and that I could play to those strengths in this next season of my life.
There are always two types of women in their 40s or women above their 40s. There's some who look way younger than their age. That's what people say, at least. And there's some who look way older than their age. Why do we have that discrepancy? And what is it that women can do in order to experience their lives wholesomely throughout, so that it's not easy to... I'll give you for an example. There are women who, when they tell you their age, you get surprised because of how good they look, physically, how good they feel about themselves, even internally. So what is the trick? What is the trick? After writing this magazine for over 20 years and telling women the tips and tricks, what do you think we need to do as women over 40 in order to still have our A game on in terms of our outlook, both inwardly and outwardly?
Oh, that's an amazing question. Thank you for asking it. You know, and you've just come on board. So
you did not just give
away your age. Looking amazing and fabulous, and I know you will tell us a little bit more about that. Okay. But there's something about us women when you're going through something. There are women who are watching this show in their 40s whose children could be, you know, struggling with drug abuse. There are women who are struggling in their intimate relationships. There are women who are struggling at work with the thought of, I'm now dealing in a digital era, and I'm not sure I have the skills, you know, to maintain my job, and yet I need this job to support my family. And so all of those things that women may be going through, sometimes you wear it on your face. It's very easy. I remember a period in my 40s when I was just going through so much stress and anxiety, because I'm also prone to anxiety, but now I know. I was going through all of that, and I remember going to take a mugshot for a visa. And the guy took my photo, I put makeup, he took my photo, he showed me, I said, no, let's do it again, take two. He took the photo, it was the same. I looked, everything I was going through was on my face. I looked at that photo and I couldn't recognize myself. I just felt miserable, and I looked miserable. And if you had met me on the street, you'd have said, oh my goodness, what's going on in your life? You just look really terrible. But what I had to do after that, not because of my looks, but more because of my emotional health, was come to terms with the things that I was going through and the changes I was going through at that point in my life, and deal with the big issues of my life, the issues to do with money, the issues to do with career, the issues to do with children, the issues to do with relationships, and make peace with certain things. Make peace with the fact that I can't choose for my children. I can love them, but I can't choose for them. And I need to release them to the life that they choose. Much as it may hurt me, I can't live for them. So some of those things, well, just coming to terms with those things brought me into a place of peace. Now, when you find peace, inner peace, real peace, see a wongo that you're putting on Instagram that this is what peace looks like. When you find real peace, but then it radiates. It radiates on your skin. My skin improved. And I always say, I'll take that photo one day, speaking to women in this demographic, and a photo of mine now, and that was like 5 years ago, and I'll put them together. And let me not kid you, that photo, I looked older than I look now. And I'll ask them, what's the difference? And the difference was where I was emotionally, where I was spiritually. I was at a bad place. I was at an unhealthy place. And the difference now is I'm dealing, I'm not 100% there, but I'm dealing with the things I need to deal with. I'm more at peace. Is my life perfect? No. But I've found peace. Now, when you come back to fashion and things like that, so we're told, okay, now when wanawake wakikua, wanaanza kujiachilia and all of that. Yes, I mean, your body is doing things, eh? They say it's running.
The law of gravity.
It's heading that way. Yeah. The law of gravity is, you're feeling it, you're seeing it, And you probably need to work harder than a woman in her 20s. And you need to look good, not for the likes, not for the man in your life. No, you need to look good for yourself. Nowadays, we work from home a lot of the times. Yeah. The days I'll wake up, I'll look for my nicest dera, I'll put on my perfume. Why? Nobody is going to see me, but I'm doing it for me. You see? So this story ya kujiachilia, we need to cut it out. And the good thing is, by then you notice a lot of women turn 40, they cut their hair, they go to the gym, they color their hair, they whatever. They want to now self-express. Yeah. And they want to do it for themselves. And so my encouragement is find a style that works for you, and do that. Get a really good fashion consultant, designer, anybody. Ask them what looks good on me. Find your style. Find your hair that looks good on you. Find makeup that works with you. Get healthy. Do all those things, right? These are the best years of your life. You're coming into your best years of your life, but only if you're intentional to make them the best years of your life.
If you're just joining us, remember you can talk to us across all our socials at KTN Home. You can hit me up at Queen Tambori, and you can also hit up our producer. She's called Grace Waweru on Facebook, Instagram, as well as Twitter. The conversation is just getting started. We would like to take a short break. When we come back, we get down to the myths and the dating and the money and whatnot. You do not want to miss this. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Her Standards with me, Quinta Mbori. Today we are having big girl conversations. I'm joined by this amazing panel of women who are aged 40 plus. They are established, they are accomplished, they are fabulous, and they know exactly what they want from life. Remember, you can talk to us at KTN Home across all socials. You can also hit me up at Quinta Mbori, and you can also talk to our producer. She's called Grace Wawiru. We are having an amazing time with these women, talking about life after 40 years. What exactly should we expect? Are there some mistakes that we made and we'd like to undo? And what is it that you can do in order to undo your life in case you're feeling stuck? Just before we took a break, I was here with Carol, Rose, and Achieng. Oh my God. You want to talk to them? They are available on social media. Maybe they can just face the camera and tell us where we can find them. We start with you, Achieng.
So you can find me on LinkedIn with my name, Achieng Butler, and I'm also on Instagram under the handle @Attitude, where I give career advice to young women.
Awesome, Carol.
You can find me at Carol Mandy on Facebook and Instagram, Carol with an E, C-A-R-O-L-E. And you can also follow us on True Love _ East Africa.
Good stuff.
You can connect with me on LinkedIn at Rose Wakiria, and you can also follow on Facebook, Retirement Solutions.
Awesome. Now, Rose, back to you. What do you think are some of the financial blunders that women make, say, before they hit their 40? And what can they do in order to ensure that they don't find themselves in the same mess once they hit 40 plus? I am your student right now, taking notes keenly, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the main common mistakes is that when people are younger, they think they have a long way to go. So the initial years, they focus on other things other than savings. Yet this should be a component of how you spend your money. You don't have to put all your money into savings. Even if you just saved 5%, 10% of your income consistently, with time you're actually going to build quite some good money. But we have people who save, but they just put the money in the bank. So another mistake many people make is not to have money work for them. So you miss out on investment opportunities, and your money is not growing. Actually, it is reducing because of inflation. So it's not just important to save, it is actually important to invest it. The common challenge when people are younger is also that they don't like investing long term. When you tell someone to invest for 20 years, they feel like it's too far, like they'll not be alive then. They want to enjoy their lives just now. Then soon after, they find themselves in their 40s. So the trick with investing is that when you invest short term, the returns also tend to be lower. When you invest long term, the returns tend to be higher. So you could also be saving and investing, but you're earning very, very little. So it's important to actually save, invest, but also have a long-term perspective to that. The other common challenge I find with most people is that at the beginning of their careers, when they start investing, they focus on investing in illiquid assets. Basically, when you're young, your income is likely to be low, but it's likely to grow with time. And bearing in mind that there are many risks associated with life. I mean, you could lose your job, you could lose your ability to work. It's important earlier on in your career to start focusing on building passive income. So passive income is, you get it by investing in assets that you don't have to get involved on a daily basis to generate an income. So the common trend with Kenyans is we get a sizable amount of money, we put it into land. So land is a good investment, and you can invest in land, but the shortfall is that it doesn't give you an income. So if you keep investing in land, basically what you're doing is that you'll actually be spending on that land. You'll probably need to fence it. Many people like visiting the piece of land to check whether it's still there. So instead of putting some money into your pocket, it's actually taking money out of your pocket. So with time, you realize that people have a lot of assets, they have invested, but the investments are not working for them, because as their responsibilities increase, the demands on their income increase, they're not having that additional income that they would want to have. But I think the biggest challenge that, from my experience, that I have come to find is that many people don't have a plan for their finances. As Acheng will tell you, many people will plan their careers. In 5 years, I want to be at this role. I want to do these professional papers. My goal is to become a CEO in 15, 20 years. People tend to be very clear on that. But many people have no definite plan where they want to be 20 years from now in terms of finances. So we miss out on forecast investments, and then we fall into the trap of looking at what everybody else is doing. And we end up doing all these things, but they have nothing to do with the kind of life that we want to live or the responsibilities that we have to meet. So I would encourage people to actually think in terms of their finances, just like they think in terms of their families, in terms of their careers. We tend to be very clear. And sometimes because we are not taught these things, in school we are taught to write CVs, we are taught to look for jobs. We have many people talking to us about life, marriage, children, and all that. In school we are not taught about finances. So as soon as you can, it is important that you self-educate. Just like people are learning about everything else in social media. I mean, people are becoming experts in fields they never went to school for. I think we first need to do that. So we're busy looking for money, making money, but we have no plan for the money. So if you have a forecast plan, if you have a definite vision of what you want to achieve with your finances, chances are you're going to achieve that. But what we realize is that by the time many people hit their 40s, they come to the realization that, yes, I've made money, but I don't think I've made the most of it. I would probably have done better. So self-educate, spend money, just like you go to school to learn about something. Spend money to learn about money, and then apply what you learn. And then you'll be able to do well.
You'll be able to do well. So it's not too late.
It's never late. It's never too late. You can always improve at whatever level you are.
Awesome. We want to talk about women 40 plus in the dating world. Yeah. What do your friends tell you? What are they going through?
You know, I think the most, let's say the most tricky thing about it is that when you're in your 40s as a woman and you're independent, and not just independent in terms of you know what you want, but also financially independent, you know, you need to find somebody who can embrace and celebrate that. Because I think there's a big difference between finding someone who accepts you as you are and celebrates you as you are with all that you know and with what you've achieved versus someone who maybe comes with a preconceived notion that because you're a woman, you need to, you know, kind of dumb yourself down a little bit and, you know, don't be too independent and don't have too strong a point of view. And, you know, it's very unfortunate that sometimes that's the expectation. So I think for a woman in her 40s and the dating scene, you know what you want. It's probably harder to find, but you've got to just be clear on what you want. If somebody's making you have to dumb down or make yourself smaller because that's what makes them feel that they are worthy, then that's a problem. That's a problem. That's an alarm bell right there.
It's a red flag.
Yeah.
Carol, there's this tag that women who are age 40 or 50 plus are normally given in Kenya. They're called anti-waharia. Have you heard about it?
Yes. Anti-waharia. I like to think of myself, I don't have a haria. I like to think of myself, I prefer the aesthetic, you know, or the tag rich auntie, because it's something to aspire to. Not that I'm a rich auntie, but it's something to aspire to. You know, anti-waharia, you know, it's sort of like, it's a funny, you know, people want to make fun of you. But it's just a tag. It's a tag. But back to what Acheng was saying about dating, and I just want to add on to that. It's very interesting that the older the women get, the more they now begin to attract the Bentens. So the Bentens come, you know, and you don't even need to go, you don't go for them, they come for you, by the way, they come for you. And that's, there's an element to which I think society has evolved where, you know, you can date somebody who's maybe 5, even 10 years younger than you, you know, or 5, 10 years older than you. So society is more accommodating now than it was 10, 20 years ago. But I think the thing for women, when they come into this place, they need to ask themselves and they find themselves in that relationship dynamic, is they need to be very, very clever, because the Ben 10s who are after other things, they're after the Harrier,
Yes.
and not necessarily you, are also very clever and conniving. And this is not the age to make what I call stupid mistakes, you know, especially in relationships, or in anything, finances or whatever. You have less time to recover. So I think be very clear about why you're in that relationship and who you're in that relationship with, and what the two of you, you know, offer each other. And if you're okay with it, then that's you. It's like she said, it's your choice. And you can live by your choices, and you don't need to explain them to anybody else. Before you'd be like, oh no, do my parents approve? Does the church approve? Does the whatever, you know? And people have given up on love or lost love because they were waiting to tick every box. Does this person approve? Does this person approve? I think now when you get into your 40s, you need to be just very clear about what you have in front of you in terms of the person, and where they fit into your life and where you fit into their lives. And then the only other thing I would add on as far as that is concerned is that women, fall in love with yourself first. Love yourself first. Fall in love with yourself. You know what I mean? Those things you want this man to come and do for you, do for yourself. Buy yourself flowers, okay? Take yourself out. Save. Even if you save for a year or two, save. Go on that holiday. Call it my holiday, you know, my vacation, I don't know, whatever. But do it for yourself, because we teach people how to treat us. And before someone comes into your life, if they do not have a way of understanding, because you've not shown them and you've not shown yourself, you will settle for anything. And do you know what? You're better off staying alone than being in a miserable long-term relationship over 40 or over 50. You're better off being alone. And the only time you know that you love yourself is when you're okay being alone or being with someone. Then you're okay. You know, because akija, aspokuja.
Rose is smiling. I think she has something to add.
I think what I would say is that in my experience, especially dealing with people in their 40s, I think I get to see both extremes. And I think money is one thing that you can't hide. You can't hide, but it actually brings out the real issues. But for me, it's been very encouraging to see that there are many women now who are earning well, unlike before, where we used to say most women earn way below what their counterparts are earning. Yeah. I believe that is significantly improving. So I find myself having to work with people where couples where the gentleman is earning less than the women. But I have come to appreciate how some women are handling that with grace. I mean, the fact that you're earning more is no reason to treat somebody else as if they have failed in their way. So I find people who are working very well with their finances, and they're able to accomplish a lot as a family. But you also get to see the other side, where people probably, once they start earning a little bit more, there are tussles within the family. Some people want to hide a few assets. Their spouses do not need to see that. But what I encourage people is to recognize that you can have all the money that you want, but money will not cover for need for companionship or need for, family. The two don't go together. In case you think once you have money, you won't need the other person. That is not the case. And especially even when you have to think long term. You'll grow old one day. You don't want to grow old alone. So if you have a good marriage, it is worth protecting, whether you're earning more than your spouse or not. Ultimately, you want to grow old with somebody who cares and loves for you. So, yeah, relationships, I think in this situation is even the season when you should nurture them the most so that they serve you for the rest of the year. Like she said, it's harder to get into a good relationship the older you get. So if you have something good, please take care of it.
What should we expect, and how can we make sure that we we take better care of our health, physically, mentally, and all, so that we are ready for this second part of our lives. Yeah, achieving.
Okay. So I think life after 40 is really about that balance. It's a balance between what you do every day when you get up, the work that you do, whether you work for yourself, whether you work for other people, but it's finding something that gives you joy, that makes you feel that you have meaning and purpose in your life. But there's also the individual health. You know, physically, are you taking care of yourself? Now, I know Kenyans were guilty. You've got KFCs and Burger Kings and all these things coming up. And yeah, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but I'm also saying that sometimes, you have to be conscious of what you're eating, what you're putting into your body. Because the way it's processed when you're 20 versus when you're 40, it's a whole different ballgame. And that mafuta, it knows where it comes and perches, and it shows itself. So we have to think about also what we're putting into our body and whether there's balance with what we're consuming, but also making sure that we have an active lifestyle. And then beyond that, I think there's something that more and more since COVID people are talking about, but I think it's something that's real. It's around the mental health. Being aware of what triggers you or what takes away your joy or steals your joy or disrupts your mental equilibrium is so, so important. We worry about things, or we worry about what society will say, or we'll worry when we're going through certain situations that society might frown upon, and that takes away, you find you can't sleep or this or that. Managing your mental health is really important. Society has taught us that, and I see it with us, with women a lot, with us as women, sometimes we have difficulty saying no, pushing back on something that actually we shouldn't really be dealing with. And so it takes away from the time that we could invest in ourselves or the time that we could invest in relaxing or resting, and it disrupts us just emotionally and mentally. So just being really deliberate about listening to your body, listening to your heart, listening to your mind. If you don't feel okay, it's okay to say no to certain things, whether it's certain jobs or certain, certain aspects of your work. I wanted to touch a little bit about career, because I think as you think about that well-being, usually when you're in your 40s and as you go towards your 50s, it's such a pivotal time, I think Carol and both Carol and Rose have alluded to that. It's such a pivotal time, and we have to be deliberate, not just when we get to our 40s, but even when we're younger, we have to be deliberate about managing our careers. A lot of the time as women, we sort of work hard, and we think, somebody will see that I'm so hardworking, I've done all this, I killed the night, I sent the email at 1 a.m., they'll know that I'm really hardworking. Nobody is going to manage your career for you. You have to manage it for yourself. And when you're young, it's important to have some kind of point of view about where you want to go. It might be linked to what you're good at, what you love, what you can get paid for, or what you can do to make a difference. This is a concept called ikigai. It's good when you're young to have that in mind so that it helps you build or work towards something, your career, in a more structured way. But when we're older, and this is the phase where we start to get to these points of transition, understanding your ikigai, understanding those 4 parameters is also important, because it can help you think through what you're going to do as you go into the rest of your life. And that's a big part of well-being, because when we're 40, maybe 45, 48, you're worrying. Carol was talking about it earlier. You're starting to get these things of guys are telling you early retirement, you have an option. Yeah. And you're probably thinking, I have the mortgage loan, the kids are in private school, there's this car I'm servicing a loan on. And you're worrying. You feel that you can't afford to, lose your job or be asked to, be retrenched at that point in time. So are you thinking about what you could potentially be doing? What are you good at? It may be uncomfortable, but being uncomfortable is okay, because it allows you to think about what you need to be doing or planning for as you go into that next season of your career.
Wow. Your final thoughts, Rose? I can see Madam Producer waving at me. Our time is running out here.
I think for me, I would want to focus more on the changing roles, especially from your 40s and going into the second half. previously you are especially a parent, and like Carol mentioned, your kids are out of the nest or going out of the nest. I think one of the things, if you're not careful about, is becoming purposelessness. I mean, you feel like you have no purpose in life, and I think that now will tie into your mental health. So you're also moving towards retirement. You'll probably be getting an early retirement, or you'll actually retire soon, but you still have a long way to go. So it's important to critically think about, what do I want to do for the next phase of life? And that might require you go back to school to learn something new, learn a new skill, do something totally different. But the most important thing is that you must remain engaged in life. If you're not engaged in life, you'll have mental health issues, which eventually will result into physical issues, eventually will drain your finances. So it's important to not feel like now you're getting to a stage where you get to stop working and rest. No, I'll just talk of it's repositioning yourself, what we call rehiring. You are doing something different. You don't have to continue doing the same thing. You could do something totally different. But there's no retiring from life. You have to remain engaged. And that will require preparation, just like you prepared for the first half. Ensure that as you're transitioning, and especially in your 40s, as the kids spend time alone, you have time to do all this introspection. Engage a coach to help you navigate and untangle your thoughts. And then once you find something that you can do, and especially something with eternal value, you know, you're pouring yourself into people, developing people, mentoring people, giving back what you have learned all these years. I think that will make your second half probably more productive than even your first half.
Vibrant. Thank you so much, ladies. You are so gracious. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I have learned. Do we say how old we are? No? No, we are not saying. Well, this has been Her Standards with me, Queen Tambori. Thank you, you viewers seated at home and watching us every Saturday. Thank you for keeping it here. Thank you for writing to us and your feedback. We appreciate you so, so much. Well, from us here at KTN Home, the hardworking crew who you do not get to see because they're always behind the camera, we just want to say asante sana, and we hope that we'll be able to see you. Let us not forget our host for today. We are at the beautiful, lovely Tamarind Tree Hotel on Mombasa Road. They are available on social media platforms. Please log in and find out about the amazing services that they offer down here. Still on True Love's function, A Woman in Her Prime, we caught up with one of the designers who showcased on the amazing event that was actually celebrating women who are aged 40 years and above, and she is looking lovely. Hi,
Thank you very
Joy.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
You tell me about Gukena fashion.
Yes.
Gukena fashion. Tell me about it.
So Gukena Fashion is my baby. It's a business I started during COVID, around July. I realized I had like machines in the house, and I love sewing. But
You sew?
Yeah.
I sew too.
Really?
Yes, I do.
That's amazing.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I realized I have machines, and I make outfits, but I could venture into it as a business.
Yeah.
So I decided to just start something.
How did you know about True Love's function for a woman in her prime?
Yes, a woman in her prime. A friend of mine called Esther sent me the post, and she was like, I would really love you to participate in this because you're doing an amazing job, and your work is amazing in Gukena. So she was like, I have nominated your name, I've given out your name, and they're okay, they've loved your work, and they would want you to participate. And that's how I ended up at Woman in the event, yes.
A woman in her prime.
Yep.
Some of the fashion mistakes that women make.
I would say the biggest one is not knowing how to dress your body.
Oh.
Yes. Because you find you may have style, but it doesn't work for your body, so you end up looking not that great. But again, people have different styles. So I would say the biggest mistake would be not knowing how to dress your body.
Not knowing how to dress your body. Have you dressed women who are aged 40 and above?
Yes, I have.
And what has been your experience?
At first, it was really scary. I was like, oh my God, this woman is going to look at me and wonder, what is this child telling me? But it's been amazing. I've dressed a couple of women, and they were really impressed. I end up being surprised myself. I'm like, you love it? They're like, yeah, I do. I'm like, oh my God, that's so nice. And they're really supportive and really nurturing. That's
Yeah.
Yes.
Where can we find you on social media? Are you on social media? Where can we find your outfits?
of course.
Just checking. Yeah.
So you can find me at Gukena Fashion. That's literally
Everywhere?
Yes.
Everywhere meaning Facebook?
Yeah, just
Instagram?
Facebook and Facebook and Instagram.
And Instagram?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to keep up with what Joy Mumbi is doing, you better hit her up on socials. Of course, one of these days she has promised to dress me, so you better keep it her standards. But for more highlights of what went down at A Woman in Her Prime function, which was organized courtesy of True Love, that will come in next. Well, from us here at KTN Home, it is Kwaheri.